good, upstanding member of this community. I've served on the fire department and several of the volunteer fire departments, and I retired from the city department basically. So I fought fire for 24 years, I think, 24 years. You know, I'll just start with the story, how it was when I was a kid. You know, kid growing up, everything was great. My parents were very supportive. They both worked very hard to give me and my brother everything we needed. We never wanted for anything. I didn't realize, you know, I just lived a normal childhood. Everything was great. Got into high school. I was always the guy that ran around with people that were much older than me. So my friends were 3 and 4 years older than me. So when I was a freshman, I was hanging out with seniors and elderly folk. So I started experimenting with alcohol probably when I was 15 years old. And when I started with alcohol, I guess at the time I didn't realize I had a problem with it. So when I would drink with my friends that were again older, I would always try to hang with them. If they would drink 6, I would drink 6 or more. So when I was a senior in high school in 1988, which was a long time ago, I got a DUI while I was still in school. I was the only person in my class to get a DUI. At the time, I was going to school with a friend of mine named Brad Billingsley. His dad was the judge, and he knew me. I'd been to Brad's house, you know, hung out with him, everything. So he made an example out of me. He fined me. He took away my license at that time for 30 days, and he made me spend 2 weekends in jail. And at the time, the jail was in the old fire station down in the middle of Carrollton. So it was like 2 cells, you know. And of course, you know, an 18-year-old, was it 17 or 18-year-old kid, I've got to go to jail on a weekend. You know, I worked at Parkview IGA, so I got off work Saturday night at 9 o'clock from Parkview, had to report to jail by 11, and stayed in jail till the following day. And I couldn't believe he did that to me, because I'm a kid, you know, I don't go to jail. So I guess I was 18, so that didn't stop me. After I got all through all that, it was still party on for many, many years after that. I got stopped again several times by the police, but somehow managed to get out of it. Didn't know I had a problem, didn't think it was a problem. It was just, I was just partying, having a good time. So I drank for many, many, many years. I quit drinking alcohol probably 10, 12 years ago. And the only reason I quit was because when I sat down to drink, I would drink until I was wasted, until I was just out of my mind, hammered. I would drink everything, beer, vodka, it didn't matter. Anything I could get my hands on. I was the guy at a party when all you guys had stopped drinking and gone to bed. I was going around drinking your beer that you'd left sitting around on tables. And I didn't think I had a problem. But it got to be to the point where I never mixed it with work. I've always worked my whole life. Since I was 15 years old, I've never missed a day of work, except for, you know, a couple of sick days. But the alcohol never got involved in my life enough for me to miss work. So, but it got to the point that I was drinking so much and so often that it hurt too bad to get up the next day and try to live a normal life. So it just finally got to the point that I was tired of it. I was just tired of it. So I quit drinking. I was sober. I don't even know when this was probably when I was late 30s, early 40s. So I was sober for several years after that. So next thing that came about was I had suffered a neck. I started having some neck issues. So I went to the surgeon. Long story short, basically, he put me on pain medication. I started taking the pain medication and took it for quite some time, probably a year before he decided to do the surgery on my neck. Of course, I was thinking about the surgery too, because neck surgery is scary. So he put me on some pretty potent pain medication, and I took them like I was supposed to. He did the surgery, and I remained on the pain medication after the surgery. So it came to a point in time that he said, well, I'm gonna have to get you off of it now. By this time, I was taking too much of my pain medication. I was abusing it. So he said, well, we gotta get you off of it. And basically what he did, he just cut me off. And so I ran out of pain medication that I was getting legally. So I started buying it off the street. Money was never a problem for me. I always had plenty of money in the bank. So whatever it cost, it didn't matter. I was going to get it, and I was going to get it regardless. So he did that, and then he tried to send me to pain management, or I had another doctor try to send me to pain management. That didn't work out because they were finding, way too much in my system because I was abusing it. I didn't think I had a problem. Still, I didn't think I just thought, I need this. But the surgery was successful. I really didn't need the pain medication, but because I had become addicted to it, I couldn't live without it. So, again, luckily, I always had money in the bank, and I was taking them at work. I was putting people's lives at risk. I was installing equipment in police cars, and I would go in wherever I was working on them at. I would go snort a pill, and just to keep me going so I wouldn't get sick, and still work on police cars. That's something that I regret to this day, because I'm a very, very safety conscious person, and by me doing that, I was putting officers' lives at risk by not properly installing the equipment. Being a firefighter, and I've been in industry my whole life, just had safety in my background my whole life. So at the time, I just didn't realize, I didn't think what kind of danger I was putting these guys in. They trusted me with their lives. I'm very good friends with all of them, still today. But it was at that point that nothing mattered to me except trying to do what little jobs I could do and do work and go to work and getting pills and keeping it hid. That was the big thing too. I couldn't let any of my police friends or even my friends or my family know that I had a problem. At the same time, I'm thinking, I don't have a problem. This doesn't happen to me. I can stop anytime I want to. How many times have we heard that? So the pills got to be to a point that they were getting very, very expensive. So it led on to other things. That a friend of mine introduced me to methamphetamines. He said, why are you spending so much money on these when this costs very little and it gets you the same effect and more? I thought, sure, why not? I don't have a problem. Let's just try it. So I did and became extremely addicted to that. Not proud of it. I never thought, I was the guy a long time ago that said, I'll never touch heroin or meth. That crap will kill you. That's nasty stuff. But I eventually became one of those people. It took over my life. At the time I was married, didn't realize I was, we're not gonna go there. Anyway, it was the marriage just wasn't meant to be. I had problems, she had problems, but I still kept it hid from everybody. My best friend, whom we did everything together, started noticing things about me, because when you do meth and pain pills, whatever you're doing, you always kind of want to be alone. And I didn't realize that I was doing that because it had consumed my life. And at this time, the only work I was doing was attempting to run my own company, which was failing each day. And my company was mostly working on police cars, fire trucks, things like that. And I was able to keep it hidden from everyone. The time finally came that, I thought I didn't think I was cool being able to get away with it, but I was just very careful. But finally, it came to the point that I was so far gone with my addiction and didn't realize it. so many people around me had noticed that I eventually got in trouble with the police. So anyway, going through the court process and police and all that, you know, I got what the sentence was. You know, they put me on a diversion program. Thank goodness. So once I complete this, which I'm still on, I've only got 8 months left on that to complete. It basically gets erased from your criminal history, like it never even happened.
But you're still on probation, correct?
I'm still on probation.
5 years?
3 years.
3.
Yeah, so I've got 8 months left of that 3 years. But even after the judge had given me what she was going to give me, you know, most people would have said, hey, you know, I'm good, you know, let's do something about this. I didn't. That's when really my marriage fell apart. So, and again, I was still thinking the whole time, you know, I can quit anytime I want to. I don't have a problem. So after failing several drug tests, or 2 drug tests, a warrant was issued, they arrested me again, and, you know, the judge said, well, you know, you can go finish your time in prison or you can go get some help. Well, of course I'm gonna go get some help. So I went into rehab with the attitude that I still don't have a problem. Mm-hmm. I can stop this anytime I want to. When I got there, I went to the healing place in Campbellsville, Kentucky. Very good place. I highly recommend it to anyone. They showed me a side of myself that I never thought was there. Not only did they teach me how to live without drugs and alcohol, but they taught me things about myself that I didn't know. It was so wonderful to learn. I mean, they showed me that you were the guy that was drinking alcohol when everybody was asleep. You were the guy that couldn't control when you put something in your body. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that I was an addict. I just knew that I put this stuff in my body and this is what come out of it. This is what I was. So today, for me to be able to control my addiction, I have a choice. I have a choice whether or not to put that in my body. And if I do make the choice to put it in my body, then I know that my addiction is going to take over and I'm going to be gone. I didn't know the difference. My daughter and I got in an argument one day. I was at rehab, and you know, they're teaching us all about this stuff, and she said, you know, Dad, it is a choice. And I said, no, it's a problem that I have. You know, and they teach us in rehab that your brain's wired a little differently, you know, and things like that. And I said, well, no, it's an addiction. It's something that I can't control. And she said, you can control it. It's a choice whether or not you put it in your body. And at that moment is when it hit me that she was right. You know, I do have a choice. And if I make the choice to do it, then bad things are going to come out of this. If I make the choice not to, great things are going to happen to me. And that's exactly what's happened today. You know, when I was 18 years old, I started smoking cigarettes because it went along great with a beer. I haven't had a cigarette in over a year now. You know, I didn't think I'd ever be able to quit nicotine because it's very highly addictive. But I did it. You know, I thought if I can quit all this other stuff, I can do this too. Even though it is legal, it doesn't matter. It's still bad for you. So I managed to quit that. I've become an active member in my church now at Cove Hill Baptist Church. I'm wanting to get more involved into organizations like this to try to get the message out, to help anybody that I possibly can tell my story. You know, because it's not always the guy that doesn't have any money, that's living homeless or, you know, living, you know, below standards or whatever. It's also the guy up here that was best friends with every police agency around here and doing work for them. I did the police cars in Jefferson County, Indiana. I had just several police agencies I was working for. They all trusted me. They were all my friends. I always had money in the bank. I was never hurting or wanting for anything, you know. So it can happen to anybody at any point in time. And if you're, you know, if people were like me, they're like, I'm not an addict. I can quit anytime I want to. I'm not an alcoholic. I quit it. You know, until you can face up and realize that you've got a problem, then you'll never stop. And that's the message that I try to help people. I sponsor 2 different people now, and I try to help them by just learning about themselves, you know, and trying to get them to understand the difference, like it took for me, about the choice that you're making and what the addiction is. So I've been blessed. I've come a long way. I know there's more we can do. I just don't know the magic word. I don't know the magic thing to do for those that are still addicted. I read the newspaper today. Actually, I spoke with a couple of police officers that are very close to me. And I said, man, because I was gone for 6 months at rehab. And when I got back, I went ahead and started back to work, because like I said, the only time I've been out of work is when I was in jail or when I was at rehab. Other than that, I've never been out of work. I've always worked. And I said, so, how are things around here? Is it getting any better? And they said, absolutely not. He said, it's absolutely getting worse. And I couldn't believe it. You know, I thought maybe it's just one of those phase things where, you know, people like to do this and then people move on to do crazy things like, you know. He said, no, it's getting worse and it'll probably never get better. And I said, man, don't say never, you know. But that's when I realized, I said, we've got to do something, because I had a lot of people standing behind me and standing beside me that never gave up on me, even though I pushed them to the point that they should have, but they never gave up on me. So even though there's strangers out here that I don't know that are having a problem, I don't want to give up on them, and I'm not going to. I still have a long way to go with trust, with gaining the trust back from all the people that I've hurt and let down and things like that. But I'm well on my way, because, you know, I'm looking forward. I'm not going to rely, you know, stay in my past, because that's not going to get me anywhere. So whatever I can do to help this group and any other groups out there that need help, I'll be happy to come and speak anytime, day or night. I'll come out in the middle of the night, middle of the morning, to pick somebody up or coach them, counsel them, whatever I can do. But I think that's really all I had. Right now, I'm an electrical engineer at now Nucor Tubular Products Group. It used to be Century Tube in Madison, and that company that owned us basically went bankrupt. Nucor saw an opportunity. It's the same Nucor company that owns the Gallatin steel plant. They saw an opportunity because they want to get into the tube business, because it's steel. So basically, we've been a member of Nucor for 5 days now. So another blessing, you know, that's happened to me. So I'm happy with my career path. I plan on retiring from there, and I'm happy with my church and the way things are going for me. And this is what I want, and this is what I need now. You know, this is the path that I'm choosing instead of drugs and alcohol, because I know that, and like I said, I've been sober. In 8 days, I'll be 24 months sober and clean, and it feels great. I love it, and that's the path I'm going to continue to walk down. So, that's it.
Yay.